to strap in and get ready. The leaders in NRL Supercoach are incoming, bringing you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and climb up the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight NRL Show with your hosts, Brain, Mattrix and Whisperer.
Now, who wants to kick us off? Because I know you boys are chomping at the bit to talk about these sub 10% owned pods. Josh has the super pods, both under 5%. We said 10%, and Josh just goes, "Hold my beer. I'm going 5%." You want to kick us off, mate?
Yeah, sure. We'll go one each. I reckon we'll do like a snake format. My first one is a guy that hasn't been overly Supercoach relevant in the last couple of years, despite being heralded as one of the best players in his position. Coming off the back of 4 premierships. Moving over to the ditch, it's James Fisher-Harris, 549k, 2.9% ownership. Now, like I said, hasn't had over huge amounts of Supercoach relevance in years gone by. But let's not remember that 60 minutes from AFB has now left the building. 65 minutes for Tohu Harris is now retired. We've only brought in Aaron Clark and probably going to promote Dimitrik. I don't see them taking up a line share of that 120 minutes, despite replacing guys like Jazz Tavanga, Bunty Afoa and Tom Ale as well. So I think Fisher-Harris could be in for a massive year. We saw the way Webster uses AFB in terms of 60 minutes per game. I think AFB, the role he played and the hole he left, Fisher-Harris most likely will be captain for that side now that Tohu's retired. Boys, I reckon he slots in and he could play bulk minutes. He could play 54, 55 minutes at a 1.1, 1.2 ppm. And I'm not saying 10 points of value because that would put him at nearly 65 points a game. But he could definitely be pushing that 63, 64 points. Back in 2021, average 61 points per game. I think he could top that this season.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. And I think the big focus is no Tohu Harris this year. That started to go, well, what about Aaron Clark? What's going to happen with Dylan Walker? I'm assuming Aaron Clark's probably going to play a combination of lock and prop for the most part. When Walker goes into the 13, Aaron Clark has the opportunity to kind of bolster up the boys in the middle. But I like it. I might segue off the back of your James Fisher-Harris shout, Josh, and talk to me about one of his teammates, Mitchell Barnett. Now, obviously not a cheap boy. He's 661k off the back of a cracker season last year. Averaged 68 for the season last year. He is dual position. He's only owned by 7.8% of super coaches at the moment, so he's priced at a 65 to start. Now, the big focal point for me was what his minutes and his numbers look like with and without Tohu Harris. So games with Tohu Harris, he averaged 63 points per game. Games without Tohu Harris, he averaged 72.2. And that was including the 3 games that he finished the season with, where he went 45, 41, and 39 when his minutes fell through the floor in that round 26 game. So, look, I'm not going to take numbers out of a rolling average to suit my narrative. I know some people will. I'm not going to do that. But I think 72 with that really shitty 3-round average to finish the year could have been anything. It could have been 75 plus really without Tohu Harris. And from what we're looking at here, the attacking stats, the scoring and the evade stats here, and we're talking tackle breaks and things like that, offloads, were through the roof without Tohu Harris from round 17 onwards. So a cheeky little pod play. If you're not looking at Payne Haas as your front row forward one and you still want to spend up there at someone reliable with some more opportunity this year, I think Mitch Barnett's the guy. Matty, any initial thoughts on our first 2 before you talk about yours?
No, I really rate them. I got the opportunity to do the Warriors in our team preview and had them both down. I did it before Tohu was injured, so I wonder if Fanua Blake might have come into contention. But Mitch Barnett, I just think if you do want that consistent guy, you can just get it. And I do think Fanua Blake, if you're watching it,
Fisher-Harris?
Fisher-Harris, sorry. With AFB leaving, with Fisher-Harris coming in, I do just think that he's a guy that you can add in round 3. But yeah, I think we're just going to watch him.
I just think with Fisher-Harris, like we look at Moses Leota, we look at Lindsay Smith, we look at Liam Henry. They all played very similar minutes. Ivan Cleary doesn't like to use his middles a huge amount. He just likes to rotate them through because he gets big minutes out of guys like Isaiah Yeo. But we look at like minutes gone by, it's been like 53, 51, 48, 47 with 65 minutes from Tohu and 60 minutes from AFB. Like I wouldn't be shocked if we see him, play 56, 57 minutes a game at 1.1, 1.15 ppm. His ppm has been excellent in the last 5 years. 1.01, 1.18, 1.06, 1.05, 1.21 last year. So I think I definitely think it could be there. If you don't have the money to go to a Barnett, I think he's the better pick of the two. But he's also 130k more. So if you think there's 13 points of value between the two of them, then Barnett's your guy. But I've only got 550. I really like Fisher Harris.
I like it. Matty, who's yours, mate?
Look, everybody's talking about this 3-gun fullback spot. Josh got me looking at it actually when I saw Reece Walsh in his team. I just started looking at guys around that price, and I'm not influenced by big podcasters, so I wonder whether Scotty Drinkbolter should come into the equation. Look, in previous years past, we've seen his base increase. Like he had games where he played 80 minutes and would score like 12, 15, 18. That when we're looking at that 2022 season, when we're looking at that 2023 season. Now, we saw him average 79 last year. The Cowboys, I think, are one of those teams that could take that step forward, maybe be up there with the Sharks and teams like that. As you start to take halfbacks out of the equation, and like Chad Townsend, whether you love him, whether you hate him, he did demand the ball. I think Scott Drinkwater, when they were at their finest moments, did a little bit of the playmaking. And I just think that Scott Drinkwater always plays 80 minutes, plays fullback. We've got a changing of the guard in there at halfback. I think he should just, at the very least, be looked at like somebody like that Reece Walsh. And if I need to save some money, I currently don't have somebody like Latrell. And like training the house down, Wayne Bennett, whatever scenarios you read in, we actually haven't seen him play this year under Wayne Bennett yet. I'm not that high on that. I just think that maybe Scott Drinkwater, you save yourself $100K, you spend that money elsewhere, and see where it takes you if you believe in the Cowboys.
Goal kicking, the factor, Josh, really the big one for me, 79 points per game without the goal kicking for the most part for the majority of the season. So, I mean, he scored 700 plus games, 7 100-point games, I should say, with his lowest score of the season is 39 for a guy who is, over his career known as a guy who can have a really low floor. Last year, he didn't show us that at all.
Yeah. I think it goes back to what Mattrix said. It's very conjective with the Cowboys. They're very good for points scored in Supercoach. They're one of those friendly teams to look at. If for whatever reason Jake Clifford is overlooked, I think Scott Drinkwater's value goes down because Duffy is a phenom off the tee. But Drinkwater is no slouch either. I think he's somewhere up around north of high 70s in terms of his percentage for goal kicking over a short sample size, so to speak. I think it's 30 from 39 attempts in his career. So he's no slouch with the tee. If he's goal kicking, I think it does throw a lot of question marks over that 3-gun fullback system and which 3 we do pick. Drinkwater was in my very first iteration of the team when Team Picker came out a month ago. I haven't been able to find the cash for him, but that's by no means a reflection of my opinion on him. I think he's a great option. I just do worry how the Cowboys are going to look with that forward pack with injuries to guys like Hidden Lukey and having Bateman thrown in there. But if I end up with Drinkwater in my team for round 1, it's not because I'm panicking or I need to fill a spot. I think he could be a genuinely great option, and he's always thereabouts for total points scored as well. I think that's something to consider as well. Availability sometimes is the best ability, and he seems to always be at the top end of the points scored overall. Yep. Good point.
Josh, we'll go to your second one, hey?
Oh, all right, boys. I don't know. It might be a bit of bias, but we got a Tiger.
I can confirm that it will be.
We got a Tiger on the list, boys. We got a Tiger, a center wing, who has a career base power of 49. He has a career average of 68 in his short NRL career. Averaged last year 64 points a game, but only priced at a 50. It's Jarrell Skelton, 499k, 4.6%. Brian Toto 2.0, Brian Toto light. If you're looking at Campbell Graham with a broken sternum, I'll tell you what, I don't hate a bit of Jarrell Skelton, the muscle man on the wing for the Tigers.
Oh, you gotta give him that huck to and spit on that thing. You get me?
Yeah, there's a bit of that. There's a bit of that about that take. But in saying that, I do like it. To be honest with you, he's not someone I've really heavily looked at this year. Just if he was closer to the 400 than the 500 mark, I'd probably be like, yeah, he's a lock. But when we start to creep up to 500K territory, people are probably picking Campbell Graham over him, which I'm pivoting away from now based on after my team picker. I'm probably leaning away from Campbell Graham a bit more. Same price, I'd probably pick Skelton over him now, if I'm honest. What are your thoughts, Matty, on Skelton?
I like it. I obviously don't have as much confidence in Tigers as you do either. I currently have Campbell Graham in my team, and I'm going to, at the very least, start the year with Campbell Graham. And we've said it so many times. I think Josh has said it on this pod. I'm going to start with the most expensive player out of those two and pivot down if I need to. But I do just think if Campbell Graham gets close to where he's at price-wise, which he's never scored that poorly, I'm going to be okay because I know he's going to be healthier and working his way back in. I do think, like, the Tigers, how many guys have they thrown in these spots and they were going to be the next big thing as well? I don't know. Like, I like Skelton, but
I think our wingers this year
down on the Tigers.
I think our wingers this year are just so different to what we've ever had. We've had to put up with guys like Charlie Staines and to try and get us meters out of the back. Yeah, we now get Sonny Turuva, who had more tackle breaks than guys like Jesse Ramian, Matt Timok, or Tom Travojevic, who we know is a tackle breaking phenom. More tackle breaks than RTS. Like, and we get Skelton, who has a career BP of 40 points a game, and he's priced at 50. Like, I understand the Tigers aren't great, but I think you're breaking even worse with really good upside. A little tackle breaking phenom. It's going to be Turuva and Skelton, a bit of a 1-2 punch off kick returns. Maybe I'm just looking through some orange tinted glasses, but if I'll tell you what, if his price was $3.99, I think that 4.6% becomes something in the vicinity of 28%.
I've also been part of an Alex Lob circle jerk with you guys.
Oh, mate, it's still coming.
I'm tempering expectations.
He's nearly 30 years of age, but it's still coming.
Taniela Tuiaki 2.0, maybe.
Mate, I would hawk tour to get some Taniela Tuiaki back.
Yes, absolutely. I'll chip in here with someone who was mentioned a little bit, Johnny Bateman, 522K, is only 4.6% owned. I thought that'd be much, much higher after we got the news that Helam Lukey was going to be out for the season. So I'm pretty confident. Like, they've obviously, you mentioned it, Matty, on your team preview, they've accommodated Bateman on the right edge by moving Jeremiah Nanai over to the left. So for me, that tells me that they're leaning into, prioritizing Bateman in attack and defense. He's only priced at a 51 this year. He only did play 12 games last year before he decided to go home because he didn't like the color orange anymore, which look, after last year, that's fair enough. But there were 3 games last year that were either injury or HIA affected, or he came off the bench. So there was an injury effect or HIA affected game where he played 39 minutes for 21 points. He then was it a pec tear or something when he came out, didn't come back on after half time, and he ended up on 20 after 40 minutes. And then there was that game where he came back from that pec tear and still played 58 minutes for a 44. But in games where he did play 80 minutes, in every other game that this year, he's averaged 61.7 Supercoach points. So if you believe in him just naturally being able to stay on the park and not get injured, there's 10 points of upside right there for John Bateman. And that price tag would probably be your most expensive 2RF, considering there's so much value around there. But if you can get 61 from your most expensive 2RF, you're not going to be upset at all, Mattrix. Any love there? You had him in your team originally. Right?
I think I was the only guy out of us 3 that had him in the team, and it was just, again, being so high on the Cowboys Supercoach point-wise. As soon as Helam Lukey went down, I posed the question earlier in the season before Helam went down that maybe they would incorporate Johnny Bateman through the middle. But now that Helam Lukey's straight out, John Bateman got kissed on the dick. He's going to get all the opportunity in the world at 500K. Sign me up.
Thoughts, Josh?
Isn't it funny how people perceive players? Bateman has had Moses part the Red Sea, and there is nothing in his way. And people hate him. People think he is the shittest pig. Don't touch him. But Isaiah Papali'i is competing with Scott Sorensen, Mav Gaia, Preston Ricky, you name it, to get a spot in this Penrith team. And everyone's ripping teams apart to get him in. And they both have similar Supercoach pedigrees, 2 really good seasons and a bunch of shit. So it's funny how people perceive players. I really like John Bateman. I believe he was in my very first iteration of a team. No, I had hit on Lukey, but the minute Lukey was out, I had Bateman in, and he was my most expensive 2RF for a very long time. And again, just because a player is not in my team now doesn't mean that my opinions change. I've just had to move structures, and I do like Bateman if he can stay on the park and keep his head right.
For sure. Your last one, Matty.
It's Stefano. And I don't want to
Sorry, we just had 3 Tigers in a row, by the way.
Yeah, I know, and I don't want to. I didn't realize that this turned into a rag at the Tigers session. But players tend to get better leaving the Tigers, and I think that that's changing going forward. I do think Benji's a good coach, and I do think he'll be there for years. But I do think Stefano coming into this Melbourne Storm system, we will see a better version of Stefano. He's a guy that's, played Origin, that's always in the equation there. I think Melbourne will just bring the best out in him. And do I think that there's 10 points worth of value? No. But I did preface earlier on in the show that I only want to make 4 trades at front row forward all year. So I do think that you could just hold Stefano all year if he's scoring at I think it was a 54 last year at the Tigers. If he scores at a 57 all year at the Storm, I think that we've had a win.
Yeah. I don't want to give away too much paid content, but a bit of a plug for our draft consensus boards. Stefano is consensus 8.6. So inside that top 9 for all of us. I think, Braino, you've ranked him as the 8th best front row forward. I've ranked him as the 9th. Mattrix ranked him as the 8th best front row forward. If you want to go check out all our rankings for every position, they are available over on Patreon. Link in the description. Don't want the American man taking up another minute and a half of my time. However, we all do rank Stefano quite high. We like him. And I think Stefano's the kind of guy that, is it 10 points of value? No. But I think he can hit his value and not deviate from that. It's not like, a Rocks and Diamonds winger that scores 200s in a row and then, within 4 weeks his break-even's 140. Stefano's a guy who could get to his peak and his break-even might never hover above 70, but it might never hover below 55. You might lose 10K one week, gain 10K the next week. And like Mattrix said, you probably hold him until before Origin or the back end of Origin when you want to pick up Joe Tarpany, you want to pick up Payne Haas for the run home.
I like it. Guys, that is our thoughts on the top 10 and also our top 6 pods that are under 10% owned as of the day that Supercoach opens. Obviously, we're going to see a lot of changes and movement in the ownership, but even more so, you're going to see a lot of content inside the Patreon. So go over there and become a Patreon member, subscribe, and you get access to us throughout the whole preseason and all the content that's going to be coming your way. And if you haven't yet, please hit subscribe and like. We'd love that and appreciate that. It helps us get these podcasts out to more ears and eyes. But we'll be back. We've got a big preseason coming up, Matty. We've got plenty of content on the way, don't we?
Yeah, there's heaps going on. I know we're going to do our team previews. I've thrown around some wacky ideas that usually involved all of us sitting there drinking beers for an hour, and I want to see some challenges. Like if the fans vote who loses, I want to see somebody drink a 6-pack and run 5K. I want to see it happen.
I can't do either of those things. I can't run 5K or drink a 6-pack, so it's going to be a rough year for me if I'm not very good.
I'm excited. We'll keep it interesting. We'll keep it interesting for everybody. I'm sure we've got a couple of cool ideas that'll be more, away from Supercoach content and a bit more fun for everybody. But that'll come a little bit further into the preseason, guys. That'll do us for tonight. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the upcoming episodes. We'll catch you then.
Cheerio.